I am an architect who experienced a space that changed me forever. That happens when a space is intentionally designed to impact people in a positive way. I remember being 7 years old, meeting in the kitchen with my parents, when in walked this young woman. She was powerful, she was strong, she was beautiful, she was so articulate. She was a boss lady, and that's why I immediately wanted to be like her. I asked my parents, who is she? An architect, they said. I had no idea what an architect was, but that didn't matter, because what I wanted was to grow up to be as powerful, strong, and intelligent as she was. I told my parents about my aspirations, and my dad's response was that to be an architect, I had to go to college, and college was not for people like us. If you know me even a little, you know that what he said went into one ear and out the other. It didn't stick because he was trying to tell me that I couldn't have what I wanted. I was 7 then, I'm 41 now, and I still have a hard time not understanding no as on reverse. 15 years later, I was admitted into the School of Architecture and Urban Planning at University of São Paulo, Brazil. Or as we call it, FAU. FAU was and still is one of the best schools of architecture and urban planning in the world. When my dad told me that colleges were not for people like us, he meant they were too expensive for labor class, low-income families like ours. Well, FAU is free. That meant we could afford it. Here's the catch. The selection process to get into that school is very difficult, which benefits the kids that go to the best private schools in the country. Not me. I got in, but after 3 trials. It was in school that I realized that this world that I had just fought so hard to enter was not where I belonged. I was 4 years older than all the other students. I had to work full-time when everybody else just went to school. I had to learn how to read in languages other than my native Portuguese. Those were constant reminders that my background did not prepare me for the university or even for a conversation with my peers and my professors. That feeling of not belonging, it nagged me almost every day. So what did I try to do? Hide, of course. I wanted a safe cocoon to remove myself from all the interactions so I didn't have to feel so stupid all the time. But I encountered a problem while I was trying to hide. This beautiful building, designed by Brazilian architect Vila Nova Artigas, it has very few full walls. It barely has any doors. Anyone can walk right in, walk through the spaces barrier-free. It was intentionally designed to bring people in, to promote togetherness, interaction, and the exchange of ideas. I couldn't just go hide behind 4 walls and a closed door. So there I was, sitting in the library patio, trying to pretend that I didn't care about all the people around me. But I couldn't help but overhear their conversations, and they were talking about the same textbook I was trying to read. They had actually been there, to the places I was learning about in Europe. No wonder they had such a deeper understanding. Those privileged kids, I thought. And I resented them. I did. But it didn't take long until I realized that I was actually enjoying to hear the conversations that I was forced to. I was even paying attention to hear it better, and I would even smile at something someone said. And before I knew it, I was mingling, I was interacting, I was making friends. friends that I still hold dear to my heart. A building designed with intentionality will, in fact, do what's intended to do. Even when humans, hint me, try to hide and put up walls, a building designed to deliver togetherness will deliver togetherness. I experienced that. And that building did change me forever. I learned that if I can see past all the clutter of social economics, ethnicity, race, intellectuality, I see the human being. I see our commonalities. Then the rest really is just clutter. This building taught me that having this experience at the early years of my education, it left a mark on me. And to this day, when I'm designing a building, a campus, or an urban setting, I always have that goal of creating interaction, creating engagement, creating community. One of my biggest accomplishments as a designer is the International Pavilion for the Northern Arizona University. This is a great example of how culturally sensitive design will create community. At the design kickoff meeting, the provost challenged us to create a building that would acknowledge and speak to our students, foreign and domestic. This building was to promote engagement and exchange, just like my school in Brazil. It was supposed to deliver a sense of belonging. But we were also told that we could not use any flags because they were too predictable. So I'm thinking, how can I make a building talk? How can I make a building interact and engage? Architects and designers, we know well how to create a series of spaces that will promote engagement and interactions. We call that a program. But the building was supposed to do that, to interact, to engage. Half an hour later, I knew exactly how. So I proposed, how about words? My team looked at me confused, of course. So I explained that every language has words that cannot be translated word for word. They need to be explained through conversation. The foreign people in the room got immediately really excited. It was a really fun moment. I wanted the untranslatable words to be placed all over the building, from inside and out. The untranslatable words were supposed to engage the student, create the sense of identity, and promote the exchange. The American word that we chose was serendipity, which means the occurrence and development of events by chance in a happy or beneficial way, which is exactly what the words were supposed to do in the building, and they do. In the grand opening, you could hear and see the students' joy walking through the building, finding their words, and once they found it, they had to announce it and tell the new friends what they meant. The untranslatable words caused a set of walls to do exactly what they're supposed to do. They promote integration, exchange, they created a community. So why aren't our places and spaces designed to bring about the best in human beings who will occupy them? Why aren't places and spaces designed to make people feel comfortable with one another and themselves? Where developers, designers, and builders fall short is that short-term profit tend to trump the impact to the people, pun intended. The current model sees things like cultural sensitivity, happiness, connection to a space, and coolness as soft characteristics that cannot be easily quantified. And that perception is wrong. As much as we like to think that we have greatly evolved, the truth is that we all crave that feeling of belonging. That feeling makes us happy. When we find it, we find home. We stop searching. We protect that, and we create roots in a community. For employers and investors, that means return on your investment. Focusing on the people actually pays back pretty well. Just look at this graphic. The people is where you spend most of your dollars. Developing and retaining them is by far your greatest ROI, at least 10 times more than any building will give you. This is like every astronaut who ever came back from the moon has said. If every person would gain this perspective, it would change us all. When my own search for home, was wearing me out, it was 2 years ago and about 18 years after my FAU experience, and I was still in that search for a place where I felt like I belonged. And I was vacillating between opening my own practice or joining Thor companies where I work now. I was invited to the office for a panel interview, and I sat in the conference room for a couple minutes before a large group walked in. I was surprised when they were introduced to me as the executive team. I was surprised because our executive team looks like this. And I was used to executive teams looking more like this. It took me a few seconds to collect myself. And I realized that as each one of them introduced themselves and told me about their work, I realized how good I felt in that place. I thought, whoa, so this is how white people feel all the time. Comfortable, surrounded by people who look like you, people that you can relate to in more than one way. This is how it feels. And I'm not gonna lie, I liked it. I really did. I didn't care what title or position I was going to be offered. I wanted to be part of that group because I completely related to them. And that made me feel like I belonged there. But as much as the people gave me that great sense of belonging, it is also about the building. A few months later, I started to realize that the excitement and that good feeling were being eroded by too many sick days because of poor air quality. My creativity was shrinking because of the dullness of the space, and productivity was compromised. Too many workspace and workflow issues. So that's why we have to combine both. We need our places and spaces to be designed and built in a way that will trigger people to be and feel their best selves. We need places and spaces that will inspire, heal, create a community. What if our places and spaces could positively impact a 47-year-old man, an 11-year-old boy, and a 41-year-old woman? Imagine this 47-year-old man. His only idea of hope in North Minneapolis was the McDonald's at the corner of Penn and Plymouth. When it closed, he watched that corner sit empty for decades, overlooked, disregarded, just like the community around it. And now, because of a community folks developer, he sits proud as the CFO of the company who owns that beautiful building at that same corner. Imagine this 11-year-old boy. He's a black boy, and he's helping his dad with the family moving company. And while moving some chairs and boxes, he notices that the conference rooms were named after influential African Americans. That triggers him to look further, and he notices a nicely dressed black woman behind a desk, a suited black man in a private office. So he asks, who work here? Who own this place? When he realized that black people own that place and work there, he was filled with excitement, and now his mind was awake to his own possibilities. All because of a designer who understands the value and the power of acknowledging the culture of the people who you occupy and visit this space. Now imagine this 41-year-old woman now reconnecting to that sense of belonging that made me choose this company in the first place, but now reinvigorated by the vibrant colors, the natural lighting, the workspace is open and flexible. The cultural relevance of the environment, now combined with the intentionality of this design, has enabled me now to fulfill my full boss lady potential. When our built environment impacts the individuals will become the key collaborators to the creation of community. Healthy and balanced communities are the key to cure the wounds of our cities. My CEO describes community as when people intentionally behave like they belong together. What if our spaces did not suppress, did not segregate, but instead triggered people to feel and behave like a community? Every built environment tells and creates stories. They make an impact. Every space does something. We need to make sure it's the right thing. Thank you.